The game begins with you and your dad swerving off the road due to a person getting in the way. When you awake, your dad has gone missing from the car and it's up to you to find him. The story is told through comic book pages and text boxes. The pages have a nice depth effect on them when you move your head, and the pages turn pretty realistically. The text boxes that appear around each level is a unique idea, but ultimately it did make me have less emotion towards the character that I was embodying. Having some voiceovers along with the text could have given a greater attachment to her, while still keeping the style that the game is going for. The style is excellent throughout though. Comic-like text appears when you do certain actions, such as lighting a lighter or chopping down a wooden barrier. Luckily, the text is never too large or intrusive, so it blends with the world perfectly. Also blending nicely is how you replenish health. Eating food restores your health, which removes blood from your hands. It's so much better than having a health bar right in front of your vision. As you progress through the game, new weapons are found laying around. You can store 2 on your belt, and then a shotgun and spear gun is retrieved from your back. The melee combat isn't amazing, as the enemies are not the most responsive to each of your swings, but these weapons are still very useful as they can be thrown. If they make an impact, they will stick into the enemy and can then be reused. The melee weapons are actually one of the most immersive things in the game though, as when you need an extra hand free, you can stick them into certain parts of the environment. It just feels so lifelike to stick a blade into something and then retrieve it again after your task has been done. Some very minor puzzle solving does appear, which mainly revolves around physics-based hooks to open up doors. Your spear gun also plays a role here. These puzzles are never tough at all, which allows the game to continue moving at a good pace. The puzzles mainly serve here just to add another level of immersion. This is a survival horror game, so much so that ammo is limited for most of the game. You really want to make each shot count, which only elevates the intensity of each encounter. To help with your revolver aim, you can place a lighter next to it, which adds a laser sight-like dot in the world. Also helping with ammo consumption is the silencer for the pistol. If an enemy is unaware of you and you shoot it in the head, it will deal extra damage, but if the enemy is aware of you, it will do less damage. The game is pretty linear overall though, so don't expect a stealth game with many possible routes to take. Further adding to the intensity is the need to reload. You press a button on the touch controller to emit a clip, but then you must actually physically put the clip back in, either by whipping your hand or by pushing it. The shotgun must also be pumped to be used. The issue with the shotgun though is the fact that it is quite long. A lot of enemies get very close to you so that they can deal damage, which can result in the shotgun passing through them and then the bullets not hitting them when the gun is fired. This, along with some of the enemies not making much noise behind you, can result in some unfair deaths. These two things are noteworthy, but honestly, the combat here is so much fun. Mixing up your weapons and landing critical hits really is a blast. You can even set traps for the enemies by placing down bear traps or explosive canisters. It's very satisfying when one of your plans work out, especially considering the limited supply of ammo. The collectibles play a role in your weapon supply too, as finding certain ones will spawn extra weapons at a campsite. It really does give an extra incentive to scout out each location. These sites, along with the lanterns, play the role of checkpoints. The game is very tough in places, so you do let out a sigh of relief when you reach one. Even on normal, it doesn't take too many hits from enemies to die. This, combined with spaced out checkpoints, can make it feel like an old school survival game at times.
Oh, an advanced version of Pac-Man we have here.
What are you on about? That's not a survival game.
Oh really? Running away from ghosts isn't classed as one these days. My mistake.
There is a load of options here to make each type of player feel comfortable. Teleportation, smooth movement, snap turning and smooth turning all make an appearance. You can play from a seated position too, thanks to being able to pick up things that are far away from you. Considering the game took me just over 5 hours to beat, the seated possibility was very welcomed. This is a fully realised game too. The pacing between weapon types and locations you visit is perfect. Each place also includes some well thought out boss battles, some of which are quite large compared to you. I don't want to delve too deeply into them, as I wouldn't want to ruin your encounters with them. These are quite rightfully intense, but some of the most adrenaline-filled moments come from when the world all around you turns creepy. Enemies spawn at a fast rate in this alternative world, until you burn a dull. It's best to run during these moments, especially because of your limited ammo supply. These moments do get the heart pumping.
Read between the lines. This is an advanced version of Pac-Man. The monsters are the ghosts. The layout of the level becomes maze-like because of parts being blocked off, and the dots are the dolls.
It's a good job that I review the bulk of these games, Mr Oculus. I must admit, the game didn't scare me too much once I had a decent amount of weapons, although now and then a growl from an enemy would send shivers up my spine, and coming across a new type was a bit daunting as I didn't know how it was going to respond. There is a massive emphasis on combat here, but that's not to say there isn't scary moments too, because there certainly is. They are just spread out a bit. It felt a bit like I was playing a VR version of Resident Evil 4, in a few ways, and the difficulty definitely reminded me of PS2 survival games. It is challenging, and it expects you to get good. I welcomed this difficulty with open arms, especially as a lot of VR games like to hold your hand a lot. I can see some players getting a bit annoyed with having to restart from previous checkpoints though, as some puzzles do need to be completed again to get back up to the same location that you died at. Learning enemy placements is a factor here, especially later on in the game, so some players may want to play on the easier setting. The interaction here is what makes the survival horror elements really shine. Reloading along with only being able to carry a certain amount of weapons at a time forces you to be careful and to prepare for what's to come. VR certainly elevates this genre of game greatly. Overall, I do say a lot of the Quest games are good in these reviews, and it's most likely due to Oculus doing quality control on what releases, but with this game, if you are a fan of survival horror, this is absolutely a must buy.
Well, I have to say, survival horror games have certainly come a long way.
Oh, Pac-Man isn't a survival horror game, Mr Oculus.
Mr. Oculus.